What's up, everybody? My name is Liam DeBoer. I'm here with ET Trucking News, and today we're going to be talking about the seemingly endless rise in diesel prices, Biden's $1.2 trillion infrastructure deal and how that's going to affect the trucking industry, and the American Trucking Association's fight against mandatory vaccinations. All right, let's get into it. The American Trucking Association isn't the only group fighting against mandatory vaccinations for companies with more than 100 employees. The ATA has found allies in the National Federation of Independent Businesses, the National Retail Federation, and the National Association of Convenience Stores. Wait, there's an association for convenience stores? Although I am glad to hear that there is somebody looking out for these employees, because if they can unjustly cancel Pooh from The Simpsons, well then I guess nobody is safe. Anyways, this Association of Associations is seeking a stay in the implementation of the vaccine and testing rule. The lawsuit clearly states their aim as follows. The plaintiffs' members have seen COVID-19 wreak havoc on their employees and communities, this lawsuit says. This is not a case about the efficacy of COVID-19 vaccines, which are a marvel of modern medicine. This is a case about American businesses that do not want to face the immediate, irreparable harm of losing employees, incurring substantial and unrecoverable compliance costs, and worsening already fragile supply chains and labor markets, which this suit adds is precisely what would result. The defendants in the suit are the Occupation Health and Safety Association and the Department of Labor, which the plaintiffs are accusing the OSHA of extreme assertion of administrative power. The suit is also fighting against the required administrative burden of keeping, quote, databases of their employees' COVID-19 vaccine and testing status, which can be handed over to the federal government at the OSHA's direction. So if the mandatory vaccinations are upheld, it looks like Suzanne and HR could be going into overtime this week. Although, if this suit fails, employers have much more to worry about than just a routine inspection from the OSHA. If a company fails to represent its compliance with the OSHA in any number of ways possible, it's taking a significant risk. For instance, an employee could potentially sue their employer for failing to safeguard the workplace and use the employer's response to the OSHA to show the company was untruthful in its representations to the government, which also opens up the possibility of criminal prosecutions for falsifying documents. Although some companies have more to fear than others in this regard. Gerald Mottman, a labor law specialist, states larger companies might become example to spur compliance from smaller operations. Most likely, the OSHA will take on enforcement actions against larger industry leaders on the theory that other smaller companies will get in line based on prosecutions of industry leaders. Mottman isn't the only legal specialist who sees this as a potential outcome. James Herman, an attorney at a firm with a very cancelable name of Dykema Gossett, has said that larger companies would be targeted to, quote, intentionally put some virtual heads on spikes. And man, I hope these lawyers are wrong because they're talking about the OSHA like they're Vlad the Impaler. Although Chris Spear, the president and CEO of the ATA, is worried about a different potential consequence. Quote, we told the administration that this mandate, given the nature of our industry and makeup of our workforce, could have devastating impacts on the supply chain and the economy, and they have unfortunately chosen to move forward despite those warnings. So we are now regrettably forced to seek to have this mandate overturned in court. In the meantime, the OSHA has continued to decline questions in regard to the implementation of the mandates or the lawsuit. In other news that we could have all expected, it's going to cost drivers even more to complete their runs. For the 8th straight week, the Department of Energy retail diesel prices has risen. During the course of this 8-week period, the DOE's price is up 35.8 cents a gallon. Questions have begun pouring out about whether the US will turn to additional releases of oil from the reserve in order to combat these high prices. However, the administration is waiting for the next release of the short-term energy outlook by the Department of Energy before deciding its strategy. The STEO is a monthly report which forecasts a wide range of prices, which places a great deal of focus upon home heating prices. The DOE states that it expects the cost for all major home fuels to, quote, increase significantly this winter. These forecasts predict a 43% increase in the cost of heating oil compared to last winter, which is significant as while diesel and home fuels aren't directly connected, they have become closer in structure due to environmental regulations. In regards to oil production, S&P Global Platts reported that despite the global increase of oil production in October, that many nations have struggled to produce their allotments. Platts states, with many members pumping out well below their quotas over the past several months, the alliance's shrinking spare production capacity is becoming a talking point and expects low OPEC plus spare capacity and the potential for a large supply disruption to be the overarching supply theme for 2022. So what does this mean for you, the drivers? Well, you can check out this video from Ronan as he states exactly what rising oil prices mean for your bottom line. This brings us to Biden's $1.2 trillion infrastructure deal. The White House has announced steps to invest $17 billion into ports to alleviate the supply chain bottlenecks that are contributing to inflation and slowing economic growth. So in other words, they expect to combat inflation by printing money, which will inevitably cause more inflation. Fight fire with fire, right? The White House has instructed the Department of Transportation to fast-track flexibility on how port grants are used, which the department has responded by issuing a temporary exception to its policy under the Port Infrastructure Development Program. The grants funded by the infrastructure deal will be open for competition in 90 days. The DOT has stated that it will announce more than $475 million in additional support for port and marine infrastructure. Officials expect that with smart allocations of these funds, that supply chain efficiency and resiliency will strengthen over time. But let's be real, when does massive amounts of political money ever get allocated properly? The White House has also touched on the importance of data sharing to support supply chains, stating that the freight transportation systems are interconnected pieces that don't always share data that can be pivotal to reducing delays. And that's all for this week, folks. Don't forget to like and subscribe to keep up with new content, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. Do large companies need to fear losing drivers to smaller companies that will not require vaccination? Does the White House need to dig into oil reserves in order to combat the rising costs of diesel? And will the infrastructure deal actually result in improved supply chain efficiency? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And last but certainly not least, stay safe out there.